Today, I wanted to talk about the amazing UFC Fight Night card that's coming up, which features Derrick Lewis and Aleksei Oleinik. This is going to be an incredible fight. I know I say that about every single one, but this one will give us a perspective on both of these fighters, which is going to be incredible because we're going to learn so much. The amount of information that we have about both of these fighters in terms of people that they've fought shows a lot about themselves. This is one of those classic matchups because of the information that we have, being the boxer / striker in Derrick Lewis and the really technical and amazing grappler in Oleinik. We all know that Derrick Lewis has bombs for hands. He touches you, it's lights out. Oleinik is the exact same thing, but on the ground. The amount of unorthodox chokes that he's able to get are incredible. The way that he gets people is just amazing. I see this with fighters like Damian Maia, with their incredible aptitude on the ground, but they don't have the wrestling to take people down. Now, what I've seen in Oleinik's past fights, he does have somewhat wrestling, but the way that he takes you down is with his technical boxing. He stuns you or gets you in kind of a lull situation, lulls you to sleep, and then figures out a way to drag you to the ground. Now, in one of his last fights, he actually grabbed the person and laid down on his back right away, brought him into his guard. And the way that he choked him out, the amount of strength that you need. We see fighters online like Ben Askren crush a watermelon with his hands, showing his grip strength. I believe Oleinik could do that with the coconut, maybe. He's got that crazy amount of power, which gives him the nickname, the boa constrictor. Now, with Derrick Lewis, you got a man like Deontay Wilder, a person that just relies on their power. It's somewhat of a it's one of the ways that he always figures out to win a fight, because of the amount of confidence that he has in his power. He could be losing a fight, completely being dominated, but still knock down a person at the end of a fight. We've seen that with Derrick Lewis. We've seen the crazy stuff that he throws. A heavyweight, on the bigger side, which is Derrick Lewis, throwing kicks and flying knees. Could you imagine a person of his size coming at you with a flying kick? That's incredible athleticism right there. He's so confident in his knockout power. He's got Knockout King tattooed on his chest. How many times have you seen the Derrick Lewis fight and you've counted him out? I know I have. Watching his fights, seeing that he's getting dominated by a wrestler. His cardio looks like it's fading on him. But he just finds that one shot. And it's not the perfect shot, to be honest with you. He just finds something out of nothing. You see in the scrambles that he has that he's able to generate that kind of power out of those small little openings that he sees. Sometimes it just feels that he just gets so mad at the other fighter, obviously, that he just shoves him off with brute strength. You don't see much in terms of technical ways that he gets out of situations. It's a lot of brute strength that he just uses. And just finds those openings, like I said before, and capitalizes on them. Even Francis Ngannou has a little bit more technical flair to him. I'm not saying that Derrick Lewis is not technical. I'm just saying that the way that he's able to find shots out of nothing. There was a boxer. His name was Prince Nassim. An amazing boxer. I'm not saying Derrick Lewis has the same flair as him. But he found power shots out of nothing in the scrambles. That's what I see out of Derrick Lewis. He just gets so angry, it seems, that someone is trying to beat him up, that he just ends up knocking them out. Now, just to look at the tail of the tape of this fight, like I said before, Derrick Lewis is one of the best heavyweights out there, finding the way to knock you out. Oleinik finding the way to choke you out. And Derrick Lewis with 23 wins, 7 losses. Oleinik, the senior in the fight, with 59 wins and 13 losses. Derrick Lewis 6'3". Oleinik is 6'2". The reach advantage, interestingly, is a 1-inch reach advantage to Oleinik. The leg reach is an advantage of Oleinik. And just by looking at the stats, you could see the amount of KOs. 78% of Derrick Lewis's wins are by KO. Wow. That's a staggering number. With the 23 wins that he has, you're telling me that 78% of them, more than half, are by KO. That's a man that deserves to have Knockout King tattooed on his chest, because he shows it. He shows it. 4% of those wins are by submission, 17% are by decision, but you can see the amount of... You know why he's so confident about his knockout power? Because it keeps on working time in, time. It works all the time. Now, here's the interesting part. Here's the incredible part. Oleinik, 14% KO. But the submission, the amount of submissions that he's won, out of the 59 fights that he's won, 78% of those were won by submission. Man, you know that grip strike that I was talking about at the beginning of the podcast? That's just, it's as plain as day right there. You can see it, 78% of his wins. That shows you that this man is no joke. He's a scary, scary guy. He's been in the game for so long that he's just learned to get these small little chokes. He's just, the type of chokes that he's getting, and Dan Hardy talked about this, they're all kind of gi chokes. They're not chokes that you're supposed to get in non-gi competitions. This is going to be an incredible fight. The way that I see this going is either Derrick Lewis obviously knocking him out, or we're going to get an incredible submission by Oleinik. Wow. Another thing that I wanted to bring up was Chris Weidman's on this card. Wow. Going from being the champion on losing his couple fights, going to 205, coming back to 185 now in this fight. He's fighting a man who's ranked number 11, Omari. Now, he's ranked number 11, but Chris Weidman, interestingly enough, does not have a number. We're talking about a man that beat some people's consensus greatest of all time in Anderson Silva. Now, I know one of those wins was by that devastating, it was Anderson Silva's knee kind of giving up and collapsing and breaking apart on a kick. But, you know, we're talking about a champion here. And he's somewhat not known on this card. Like, nobody's talking about him. So, I hope Chris Weidman does well in this fight. He's going to look to use his wrestling, but the Wolverine, you know, just by watching some of his last fights, I see that he's got that wrestling base. He likes to keep the fight on the feet. He just enjoys it. That's what I see. He has the wrestling to negate Weidman's takedowns. But Weidman, being the All-American that he is, I hope that he uses wrestling in this fight. I just hope. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because he's training with Wonder Boy all the time, but he is just relying on his striking so much. But I think what brought him to the game was his wrestling background. And I hope he relies on that in this fight, because I think it would be a massive advantage for him. And it would be a great way to get him back in the W column. This is not a gimme fight. I've watched a lot of Marion's past fights. And just by watching, this is a dangerous man. He's no joke. He's been in the game for a long time. I don't think people know this, but he's been in the game for a little while now. He knows what to look for. But I really do believe that if Chris Weidman uses his wrestling, takes him to the ground, either gets a nice decision win or gets some ground and pound going off and gets a nice TKO win, this will put him on the right track. And it just might get him out of this slump that he's in. This is one of the champions at 185. And he's not being talked about one bit. So I hope he does well. I hope everybody does well. I think this is going to be a pretty good card. I mean, to be honest with you, everything looks great on the card. The prelims, whenever Tim Means fights, I'm going to be watching. So I'm always down for that. So the prelim headliner is looking great. The main card is all right too. Like before the prelims, it's but before the prelim main event is going to be nice, and the main event I think it's going to be cool too. Giannis Kunitskaya, she's always great. She always fights. She always brings it. So I think it's going to be interesting. I'm going to be watching. Obviously, I just love this stuff so much that I can't keep my eyes off of it. So, but that Derrick Lewis fight is going to be a great test. You know, it might just end up being a technical fight where Oleinik is just trying to take him to the ground, and Derrick Lewis is not letting him. You know, it does have that. It does have the opportunity to be a kind of boring card for the regular fans out there, but this could have an amazing submission or an amazing knockout and one of the best in each category for the year of 2020. That's how amazing this fight is. Now, what do I think is going to happen after this for either fighter? Derrick Lewis, I really want to see him fight Francis Ngannou again. A couple of people brought it up. A couple of other reporters brought it up, and they talked about it on their podcast. And a lot of people are hating on that idea, but man, and I feel bad for Francis Ngannou. I truly do. The guy's on a winning streak. He's been knocking everybody out. You put anybody in his position. But I just want to see who the real knockout king in the heavyweight division is. Now, I know Derrick Lewis has a little bit of bumpy road. I know that Francis Ngannou, after he got beat by Stipe, he had a little bit of a bumpy road. But you know what it is? And I don't think Dana White is going to make this fight at all. I'm just trying to imagine. I'm trying to dream of it, because I would rather watch millions of those boring fights between Francis Ngannou and Derrick Lewis to get one amazing fireworks show, because that's the possibility here, is that it would be an incredible fight and it would show you the true winner and person to fight for the belt. Now, as I've said in previous podcasts, I don't think that DC or Stipe, I think they're both going to retire after this fight that they're having, but you need someone to fill in that spot. And then Derrick Lewis is just so marketable as well. And then when it comes to Oleinik, I think he still needs a couple more fights, and that's hard to say because he is in his older. He is a bit older. He's 43 years old, and but Oleinik has said at the age of 43 that he wants to keep fighting big names. Maybe for, I don't know, a couple more years. He said a number, but it's just so ridiculous. But I just need Oleinik to win a couple more fights. It's just that I think when someone fights for the title, you need to forget about all their losses. And I still remember some of Oleinik's losses. So that's why I believe that he still needs a couple more fights. I don't mind that Curtis Blades fight. Maybe that might be a fight for him, unless Curtis has something already coming up. But that's not a bad fight for him as well. And that would be a grappling masterclass right there as well, because of Curtis Blades wrestling. And would he want to use that against Oleinik, who is just a phenom when it comes to the grappling and the choking out and all that kind of stuff. So that'd be an interesting fight, and that's where I want to see both of them. So it was great talking about this Fight Night card. I hope you guys all enjoy it, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.